Hello, everyone. My name is Devin Rue. I'm a professional fantasy cartographer and illustrator in the tabletop RPG industry, as well as your host for the Quip and Quill podcast.
Hi, I am Cait May. I am an illustrator, comics, and character artist. I am most recently the illustrator for Fantasy High Dimension 20 Junior Year. I am super excited to be a part of that project. But I like to do a little bit of everything. I'm a huge nerd. I love tabletops and video games and all that lovely jazz. And I'm super happy to be back on the podcast.
We're so happy to have you back. I say we, it's a royal we.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. Naturally, I am the matriarch of maps, so.
Right, of course.
Gotta be all posh.
Alistair's happy to have me back. I get it.
I know, right? It's
oh, right.
Alistair was fired.
Bye, Alistair.
Right? So out of here. Wow, where do we begin after the conversation we just had before we started recording? We're not going to talk about anything because everything we do want to talk about is still NDA.
Uh-oh, secrets.
Yeah.
No. Say we could talk about the industry right now and how buck wild it is.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I do actually promote this podcast to new artists, to designers, to people who are looking to hire us. People who are looking to create projects or somehow become a part of the gaming industry. And there's just so much right now.
It's so much. It's stupid how much.
Oh, would you like to start?
Sure. I mean, we can talk about like the big one, which is AI.
This is true. We've had a lot of discussion about that on this podcast, and not like we can't continue to absolutely bash the idea.
Yeah, it's just scary. I feel like every day there's a new company that made an oops, and then they're like, "We didn't know,"
right.
And just all the choices that are being made that reflect so poorly on said companies, and.
Well, here's the thing.
Human artists who are struggling.
How about for art directors, I don't know, you hire actual fucking artists.
Right, people that can recognize it, that know what to look for. Because the excuse of we didn't know, we couldn't tell is getting extremely old extremely fast.
Oh yeah.
And it proves that there are people who are not artists on the art team. Which is depressing unto itself.
Yes. And I understand, like, it is sort of difficult to find people that are willing to create art. Because, okay, here's a perfect example. Is I just had Jonah Loeb on, and he has done work with Bethesda.
Mm-hmm.
And the entire time that he worked at Bethesda, he couldn't create any of his own art. Because
they have a really strict non-compete.
Yeah, so they're like, hey, anything you make while you work for us is ours.
Yeah, my partner actually works for ZeniMax in their quality assurance department, so I'm familiar with a lot of their weird policies.
Yeah, so there's a lot of artists that don't want to work for a company full time in fear that they won't be able to create their own art.
Right, to make their own things, yeah.
And there's a lot of companies out there that don't know that they should be hiring artists, which is... Yeah, well, okay.
No, it's true.
It is. Because, you see somebody with their resume and they say art director on it. So you think they must have some sort of, I don't know, understanding of art enough that they would be able to decipher this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not wrong. You should. If you are an art director, these are things that you should kind of already know. But it does require you to at least understand how art is created, even if you don't make your own. Understand the length of time, the amount of work, commitment, whatever that's required. And that would, if art directors understood that, that would change our pricing over the industry.
Absolutely.
It would allow us a living wage. It would
It would
allow
change
for better art.
the standard of living for an entire generation of people.
Absolutely. And it would change the way that art is actually used in the books and modules and games and everything else. That would make much more sense.
Right.
But we don't. We have a bunch of people who may have gone to art school, but got a business degree.
Right.
And this is not a bad
it's a little more complicated than that.
Right. I don't mean to bash anyone.
No,
but
absolutely. You also get the opposite of artists who have no idea how the business functions.
Yes.
And so they get robbed, basically,
yes.
Throughout, their career. And that's just as hard to combat.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons why I was like, once I started doing this podcast and I got the reaction I did, I was like, yeah, no, we're absolutely going to talk about all the shitty stuff that happens regarding artists, writers, creators, designers in the gaming industry, and not just tabletop, but games
everybody.
themselves.
Yeah. I mean, the riot layoffs that literally just happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's wild that there's so many businesses that think that, and they're showing their asses now, right? That they're like, oh, we don't think of artists as people.
Yeah. Oh, we're absolutely just disposable.
Yeah. Right. Obviously, it's not like art direction is an entire category of awards or anything like that.
Right. Well, the sad thing is that there's so many very hungry artists out there that we are replaceable.
Right.
Because we can't unionize. We can't, there's really not a whole lot of information out there, or I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of really shitty information out there.
Yeah, and people who are trying to make a dollar rather than actually protect you or have your best interests.
Right. I don't make money on this. Well, I shouldn't say that. I do have a Patreon if somebody would like to help me make money from this podcast.
Yeah, sub to Devin's patron, everybody. Patreon. Become her patron.
Yes. So if anyone would like to do that, awesome. But I don't really make any money on this podcast. And I don't, that's not the point of it in any way, shape, or form. I'm just tired of hearing so many people come up to me and say, well, I want to work with this company or that one. What do you think of them? What do you, what should I ask for?
Maybe
what should I allow? Yeah. And then what should my pricing be? What do I put in my contract? I don't even know what a contract should look at like. I don't know any legalese. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's so scary.
Yes.
I'm incredibly lucky that was a course requirement for when I was in college. But also I have people that literally were in the same class as me that didn't retain the same lessons because, the teacher can't get to everybody always. So I paid attention. My mother's an accountant. It's been a learning curve over many, many years, but I know how to sustain myself right now and how to protect myself. And if I can throw a little bit of that back into the community to help someone else, then, that means I've done my job.
Absolutely. Same here. I have a corporate background. I am somebody who wrote up a lot of these contracts. I have a really good understanding of how they should work, or shouldn't, for that matter. And the other thing is that as somebody I've done so much traditional art and worked with agencies, galleries, whatever, I have enough really good understanding of being the person who doesn't want to say no because I want my art out there.
Yeah. And in the times when if you say no, you don't eat that month.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. So I want to help people as much as possible be able to say yes, but
right. And then protect yourself.
Exactly. And to change that as much as possible across our industry, because it's the only way that we're not going to be asked to do the most impossible projects at a ridiculously low cost, just so someone else can make a high profit off of our work.
Exactly.
So, and it's astronomical how much this happens. And so yeah, and there is no set of prices across the industry, and technically there can't be, because
everyone's level of work is different, and
right,
each piece requires different things.
Exactly. And the same thing that might take you an hour to draw might take me 3 weeks, because
Right.
you just don't know.
Yeah, and it depends project to project too. Like I've pitched things before where I'm like, yeah, I can get that done in 3 days. I've done it before.
Right.
And then it turns out that, life gets in the way. This
Right.
little thing called life. And 3 days turns into 3 months, and
Exactly.
there's nothing you can do to anticipate it. So you got to find the right people to work with, but at the same time you have to know how to protect yourself.
Yes. So, I'm really big on that. And this podcast I am absolutely talking to you if you are a game designer, if you are a gaming company, if you write modules or oh god, what the supplements for I can never remember this word for some fucking reason. Oh, for D&D or any tabletop RPGs, if you're looking to design a game for the tabletop industry, whatever the fuck it is, if you are going to hire an artist, listen to this fucking podcast. Listen to what we're saying. Because if you would like a top name artist to help promote your project and pay them fairly and not talk shit about you when the project's done, because we will.
We all talk. That is a big
Yes.
secret that you don't know. We're all friends and we all talk to each other. And if a client is bad or won't pay you enough, we're going to tell our friends.
Right.
And you're not going to get people to work with you again.
Right. You're not going to get another top name.
Nope.
You're not going to get... And the other thing is, like, even if we're not friends, the amount of people that I will get a message from, like, hey, listen, you don't know me, but I saw that you've worked with such and such company.
What can you tell me? Yeah.
Right. They've approached me for something, and I think this is a little lowball. Well, you're right. It is. And they don't care. And this is why.
Yep.
And, so, this industry is small enough, or at least the tabletop industry, I should say, is small enough that if you do want to work with some major brands, or even if you don't, even if you want to make your own, you still have to figure out how to work with artists and writers. And the idea of 5 cents a word, 5 cents a word.
No.
First off, I can't imagine being paid per word.
No, me neither.
That just sounds impossible to fucking live on.
It's a terrifying prospect, but it's been the industry standard for writers for so long.
Right. And the fact that you have a word limit. Wait, what? Like, and then they wonder why so many people either just write their own stuff, or half-ass a project, or don't really care. Well, here's why. You're paying them shit. You're paying them shit and expecting them to want to do, like, have as much enthusiasm about a project as you do. Like, and granted, all of us are really aware that a lot of companies don't have the funds to pay us what we might be asking.
We get it. We do.
Yeah.
There's so many times people have said, hey, what's your rate? And I say, my rate is malleable based on the budget, because there are times that I want to work with you.
Yes.
I want to make it work.
Absolutely. So which means that, we understand. Here, offer us something else.
Right.
Offer us something that'll make sense. Like, I don't know.
Or lower your standards. If you think you're going to get like a fully illustrated Wizards of the Coast level book for, $100 illustration. Yeah, no, good luck. I had somebody offer me $50 for an illustration, and I was like, you want me to draw it on a Post-it note? Like, that's what you're going to get.
Right. I've had people offer me like $100, $200 to draw a map.
Oh,
a map.
No. Sweet darling babies. That's not how it.
Right. And it's never ever just like a little regional map or something. It is always like a world map.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
The level of like the standard of illustration, people have no idea what it actually is.
right.
And I don't in any way want to like blame or be like it's this person's fault. But
Right.
there's a lot of like when you start out and you're on Tumblr and you're asking for, you know, $25 a character, which 100% I was guilty of. I used to do that stuff. I used to charge 15. I charged $15 per character. We've all been there.
All done it. Yeah.
I was 19. I didn't know any better. But we work in a luxury industry, and so you have to charge prices that will let you eat.
Yes.
It's so important to realize where we are, where we've come, and that you're allowed to ask for a living wage.
Yeah,
and if you continue to ask for a living wage, you will make the industry better for other people.
I agree. The problem is that we wouldn't do that. Back then, if somebody had said this to you, you'd been like, that's great, but I won't get any jobs that way.
Right, but I won't get anything, yeah.
Yeah. And so the thing is that but you do. Like, I don't know how to stress enough to people. Mm-hmm. You will right. Get them. Here's the thing. I am not the world's best cartographer by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not saying I'm shit. I don't mean like
you're
that.
Up there.
Well, it wouldn't matter if I was. What does matter is there's so many people who hate my maps, not because I'm a shitty artist, but because it's not their style.
Mm-hmm.
And they prefer, you know, maybe a more sci-fi look or a more whatever, or, you know, more ornate borders or whatever the case may be, which is great. There's so many other cartographers out here that do that. Fantastic. But for the people who come to me who want specifically my look, my style of maps, are willing to pay that amount.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what most artists, especially when we first start off, don't realize, they're coming to you.
Right.
They're coming to you because of your art.
Mm-hmm.
So you already have the job.
Right.
All you have to do is tell them the amount. And if they can't afford it, and you can totally say, this is my price. Is that in your budget? No? Okay, well then do you want to make payments?
Or like, can we lower what you want me to do? So instead of 3 illustrations, I'll do 1.
Exactly. Or not
There's
as much
ways
detail.
To make it happen.
Or just line art, or just flat, or just, you know, like there's numerous ways around it. And you like, I can't stress this enough to artists. You already have the job.
Mm-hmm.
They came to you. They like your art. Don't undersell yourself.
Right.
And, you know, same with writers. If they came to you, they already know what you do.
Mm-hmm.
They already like your stuff. Fucking put your stuff out there at a reasonable fucking price so you can live.
I cannot tell you the amount of stress that I went through the very first time I like realized that I had to raise my prices to live.
Mm-hmm.
I'm lucky enough I still have the therapist I had at the time. And she will now make fun of me for how scared I was back then, because we have a good relationship. But she'll be like, hey, I know you're like freaking out about XYZ job that you're not sure if you're going to get it. Do you remember back when you had to raise your prices and how scared you were about that? I'm like, shut up, Michelle, because she is right. I was scared. I was terrified. I was so scared that if I did this, I was jeopardizing like the trust that my clients had in me. I was, betraying people who couldn't afford me. I was doing all of these things that I was like, oh my God, I'm the worst person. I'm the worst person. I'm the worst person. And what happened is I raised my prices and all of my clients said, oh, okay.
Yeah.
That they either understood and were ready to pay, or they said, okay, well then I'll just save up a little bit more before I'm ready to commission you. It won't be as often, but I can pay your price. Yeah. And if somebody is going to complain and be like, oh my God, you're horrible for doing this, they're not a client that you want to have.
Right.
And the older I get, I know it's ironic, but like the older I get, the more I realize, you know, unless I have a good relationship with XYZ client, I don't want to work with them.
Right.
There's just no point if they're a jerk.
Right. Yeah, but the other thing is, and because I get this from so many other people, like, you have the ability of saying no now.
Mm-hmm.
People know who Cait May is.
That was a weird one, realizing that I can tell people
Yes. Right. And I just recently had a conversation with somebody, and they're like, okay, so out of curiosity, what do you charge for your maps? And I said, I charge $4,000 for a world map, about $2,500 for a regional map or a continent map. I think it was like 2,000, whatever it is for regional, blah, blah, blah. So, gave them the prices. I was like, but you can't charge any of these. These are prices that I'm able to ask because I already have that type of following or those kind of projects and everything else. Can't say you won't eventually get there. You will. But people are going to be like, well, who the fuck are you to... And it's not like they're right to say, like, who the fuck are you?
No, oh my gosh.
You're charging a price based on what you can live on. But unfortunately, this is the realistic view of our industry, of people going, well, who the fuck are you to charge that amount?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, but I still don't think that it should be like my price is cut in half.
No.
I just
but that's
don't,
to give you like the metric of here's what I can afford to charge when I have the ability to tell people no.
Yes.
And I understand that you don't have the ability to tell people no, so you're going to have to charge less. That's okay.
Right. Exactly. But it also allows them to understand there is the ability of asking that amount.
Right.
I am getting paid that. Like, that's the thing that people are like, like, I've said it on this podcast before, and I've gotten a comment with like, how do you even get work? Honey, I don't know how to tell you this.
You.
Yeah. I am booked out on the average 2 to 3 years.
Right.
So, people pay it. So it is feasible in this industry. Mm-hmm. It's just that we don't have, I do have people that hire me based just on my name. Mm-hmm. I usually hate those types of projects. Seriously.
It makes sense. I believe you.
Yeah, I want someone who like hires me because they are so into a fantasy style, high fantasy map. Right. Because that's what I draw. But I will have someone who like, okay, so we would love to work with you. So this is a sci-fi setting. Bitch, have you seen my work?
Yeah, like hang on a second. There's always room to be said that like stretching your artistic muscles is a good thing. Yes. But when you're, booked a year and a half out like you are, you need to have work that's in your wheelhouse in order to get it done.
Right.
So ladies, pay attention, please.
Right, just a little bit.
Just a titty bit.
Even just my drawing style. Like it's not like I'm drawing high fantasy only.
I thought you were going to say I'm drawing haiku, and I was going to be like, since when? Sorry, go ahead.
I am.
Devin Brew, anime rock star.
Little did you know, Cait. Yeah, no. But it's literally how I draw because I'm not. Here's the funny thing, people. I'm not actually drawing in a style. I literally am drawing the only way I can because I have a visual impairment. For it to look like how I think it should, it ends up in this style. I don't know how to change it, even if I wanted to.
Yeah, style is. I get a lot of questions like, how do you develop a style? Like it's been there. Right. It's been there since you were born, bud. Yeah. It's just gonna come out no matter what you do.
Right. Here's the thing:
there's ways to curate things, but it's there.
Yes. Your style will be based on what you find the easiest for you to create and have the most fun creating. Mm-hmm. That will end up your style. And it might end up similar to someone else's. That's perfectly plausible. But if at all possible, always try to be as unique as you can because that's what makes you stand out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what gets you hired a lot. And the other thing is it's what helps keep you away from copyright suits.
Yep.
So
Dealing with one of those right now.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I have a lawyer right now because it turns out Daddy Bezos was stealing one of my Lunamoth designs. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was on a lot of stuff. It was like on pop sockets and pillowcases and tote bags. And I was like, you don't own that.
Oh, wow.
So I had to get a lawyer.
Right. And here's the thing. It doesn't matter who you are. Somebody is going to steal your art.
Yeah, that's the internet.
Yeah.
Even if they don't steal it outright for, printing said art on a tote bag like I'm dealing with, you can deal with scrubbers, AI scrubbers right now. So back to the AI topic of
right.
It's gonna happen. You have to figure out how to protect yourself. I'm looking into like Nightshade and Glaze and a lot of the other programs that like will help hide your work from thieves. But you got it's part of the game. I wish it wasn't.
Yeah. Here's the thing, and I will absolutely say this till I'm blue in the face. Put your goddamn logo on everything you post on the internet.
No, as hard as it sounds and as much as you're like, no, but it messes up the artwork, you have to do it.
You have to. It makes it so much easier for someone to find you. It makes it so much harder for someone to steal your art. Put it in a place where if they crop it, it'll look weird.
Mm-hmm.
Put it all over your fucking piece. I don't care. Don't allow people to steal your art just because you're worried or someone bitches about it. Like my favorite, I made a map of Skyrim and I put my fucking logo right over Riften. Why did I put it over Riften? Because if you crop the map, it'll look really weird.
Yep.
And secondly, because, there's so many people like, oh, yeah, I can't believe, can I just have it without a version with Riften? No.
Nope.
No, you can't.
No, you can't. If you want it, you can buy it.
Right. Well, you can't. You can't buy it.
Well,
Copyright. But, yeah. But I wasn't going to put it on the internet without my logo on it. A big-ass fucking logo. You can see what it is.
Right.
It's this whole, it ruins the art. No, it ruins you stealing it.
Right.
Call it like it is. It ruins you stealing it, downloading it, and using it for free. That's what it does.
As much as I'd love to be able to post things without, and I have posted things without, it's not tenable anymore. You just can't.
Mm-hmm. Right.
It's unfortunate, but you just can't.
I'm going to say this because I got it, because it reminded me of it. Please stop using other people's art to sell your shit on the internet.
Oh my gosh, has that happened to you?
So many fucking times somebody has printed out one of my maps and taken pictures with their product on my
map. No.
Right.
That's not how that works.
No, it isn't. I don't care if it's inspired by. You are literally advertising. That is a commercial use of art. Please stop doing it. I can't.
A whole nother, ballpark of no one knows, like on the base of internet, the art consumers, no one knows what rights are.
Right.
And I've had to explain, yes, so there's a thing called copyright that you own when you create anything. You doodled as a 2-year-old, that 2-year-old owns the copyright to that doodle. You made it, you own it, period. You can trademark it, you can register said copyright, but no matter what, if you drew it, you own it.
Yes.
And
even if another company hires you to create it.
Right.
Technically, I own the designs that I make in all of my maps. Right. I am the registered artist.
Mm-hmm.
Even the stuff that I've made for like Wizards or Critical Role, it's a shared copyright. Yep. I am the artist. They can't give my maps to someone else and say duplicate this.
Right. And
they could give it as a reference, but that's it.
Yeah. And if someone wants to use art that you have made, even if they're paying you to make it, they then have to pay you for the rights to use it.
Yes.
So you have to pay you to make it and pay you to use it, period.
Yes. This is why I charge $4,000 a map, because you're not just paying for me to draw, you're paying to commercially use my art.
Right.
You know, and I can't stress this enough. Artists need to put in licensing fees, understand even the basics of how licensing works. And it needs to be a topic that we're discussing over and over and over again. So the writers that are listening, for the designers that are listening, for people that want to start a company, make their own tabletop system, whatever the case is, if you want to work with artists or writers, you should be fucking listening to this podcast and taking goddamn notes. Because,
it's true.
And we fight this every fucking day. It is amazing how many people don't know.
Yeah, they think like, oh, I paid you to make it, it's mine forever. And that's not how that works. It's just not.
It's even worse than that, especially in cartography. I will have someone who will come on, pay me $5 to download one of my maps for virtual tabletop, and then share that file on the internet and tell me, well, I paid for it.
Oh no. Then we're getting into like NFT territory.
Yeah. You don't own the copyright. You don't get to distribute someone else's artwork. That is illegal.
Especially if it's behind a paywall in the first place.
Right. You know, if you're paying $5, you don't own it to distribute it. That's not how that works. If you commission me to make a map for you, and we don't have anywhere in the contract that you have commercial rights or distributory rights, guess what? You can't.
Right. You can't print it. You can't sell it. You can't do anything because you do not own those rights.
Technically.
Technically, yeah.
You know, an artist or the company that hired them are the only two people or beings, entities. Yeah,
legalese, the entities, the aliens.
The only two entities that are legally allowed to distribute the art in however fashion. And this does include freely. I had another company I work with print up one of my maps, one that I made as a gift for Matt Mercer, and take pictures with their product on the map, because I've worked with them at Critical Role. And I was like, please don't do that. One, you are literally using Critical Role to advertise without their permission.
You don't have the advertising license.
Right. And two, you're using my art to do the same thing. You're not allowed.
Right. Like
don't do, because even if like I don't want Critical Role to come up to me and say like, hey, you're giving your art, you're allowing this? Are you telling people this is okay? No, I'm not. No.
It's theft.
Right. And then on top of it, now they won't work with you.
Right, exactly. That they're like, wow, we can't trust you to like keep your IP safe or keep your stuff safe. How do we know you're going to keep our stuff safe? And it's not, it's so aggravating because this industry, when you're a sole proprietorship, which is what my business is, even if you're an LLC, like there's so much that I am one person. Yeah. So if somebody's going to steal things from me, I have to fight that personally, and it will reflect on me.
Yes,
as
and
a business.
Everything is out of pocket.
Right, exactly. So there's so much that goes into protecting yourself and your business at the same time, and people are just so silly and uninformed, and it makes me really sad that it's so common, and it's so common.
Well, that's what I'm hoping to change with this podcast.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Yeah,
don't
I want to
steal stuff, guys.
Yeah, don't
just
steal
don't
stuff.
Don't right click save. I know it's really easy to do that, but just don't.
Yeah, just ask. You'd be amazed how many of us are like, yeah, sure, as long as my logo's on it.
Oh my god, of course. I get people all the time that are like, can I use this as my cell phone background? I'm like, yeah. Thank you for asking.
Right, that's all.
Sounds cool. About. Send me a picture of your home screen. That's awesome.
Yeah, don't sell it. Don't give it to other people. Make sure my logo's
but you
on
can
it.
use it as that, and then if people ask you who did it, tell them it's me.
Yeah. I mean, again, as long as you're not outright stealing it and not using it for commercial means, we're good.
Right.
And again, the only reason that it isn't because artists want to we want to make all the money ourselves.
No.
We have to defend our copyright. If we do not, then anytime that a major company, I don't know, let's say Hasbro, because I'm mean.
Hasbro.
Right?
Dinkelberg.
Let's say a major company decides hey, I want to use this in an ad or something. I have to prove that I have been defending my copyright in order to actually stop them from using it.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my best proof of that is to go, there is no instance on the internet that you can find where my artwork is used without my logo and or permission. And that's currently, hopefully, true.
Not for me. That's why I'm in a lawsuit.
Well, yes.
Woo!
Exactly. But you now have the ability to defend your copyright because of this.
Right.
Whereas other artists, if you're not putting your logo on it, if you're not stopping other people, not saying hey, you can't use it commercially or whatever, if you're not standing up for your art when someone else steals it, you don't have a leg to stand on in a court.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's really rough. And I hate ever having to scare anyone into oh my God, I have to do it this way. But unfortunately, it's the world we live in.
Right. I feel like it's less of that we're trying to scare everyone and more hey, please protect yourself. Please help us change the standard.
Yes.
So that we don't have to deal with this anymore.
Right.
Because, oh my God, it'd be so nice if we didn't have to deal with this anymore.
Right. Or if, someone else was hey, by the way, is that a Devon Rue map?
Yeah.
Do you have permission to have that?
Mm-hmm.
I've had
that's how I found out about the copyright infringement I'm dealing with now, is I had people send it to me.
Yeah.
They were hey, this looks like yours. And I said, oh, great, it is.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I've had a couple of people send me, by the way, if you're a cartographer and you decide oh, I don't know, I want to make something that looks really close to Devon's art style and really close to the Critical Role maps, but not call them that and then sell them on Etsy.
Uh-oh.
I cannot tell you the amount of people that will tag me, send me your links, absolutely go out of their way to be this person is stealing from you.
That's another we're talking about that the clients will come to you, people will understand, people will be die hard.
Oh yeah.
I've had some folks be put on location, I just want to help. Yeah. And I'm not gonna do that, but I appreciate you.
Oh yeah, I'm just I had somebody who apparently was doing that right down to perfectly mimicking the borders, my title frames, everything. It looked very close to the Dwendalian Empire map.
No.
I was tagged so much that this person started deleting comments, stopped posting. I was
and it's run, piggy, run.
Right. And the funny thing is, I would have absolutely been oh my God, check out this artist, because I loved how their maps looked. But they were quite clearly trying to...
Yeah.
Their name wasn't ambiguous enough. Let's just put it that way. And I have people actually trying to use my name, which is, right. Yeah, pretty much. Well, not their name. I think it was somebody else. But I've had a couple of people just Devon with an O or an I or whatever, and last name Rue or Devlin. And by the way, no hate. There actually is a Devlin Rue and another Devon Rue something. No hate to any of them. There are other people who have names similar to mine, but if they're posting cartography that looks like my shit, then yeah, they're probably stealing from me. So, or trying to bank off my name, but that's about it. I had somebody message me, and I was like, "They're not even posting maps. What? People are allowed to share a name."
Oh my gosh.
As rare as mine is, doesn't mean it's impossible that people have it.
Hey, same. I mean, when it comes down to it, I am a Caitlin, but if you call me that, I'll be mad and probably cry. But
Aw.
like, with my spelling, I
Yeah.
get, misspelled or misidentified all the time. But yeah, even if somebody, shares your name, they don't always have the worst intentions at heart, but you have to hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Yes.
Always.
Yes, absolutely. So, I'm just like, oh my God. So how on earth are you even able to go after Bezos?
Well, it's not necessarily a go after yet. What we have done so far is gotten the items delisted.
Okay.
So that's a good start, and I'm hoping that we can eventually, push for damages. But we'll have to see. That is so involved, and when you're going after companies like Amazon, that are like literal mega conglomerates and terrifying, you have to be prepared for a really long and expensive slog, which I am not yet. So we'll see about figuring all of that out, but I don't. The biggest part is I was like, you don't fucking own this. Take it down.
Okay, listeners, you heard it here. If you want to help Cait afford to take down Amazon or her shit off of Amazon and take them down a peg, go to her Patreon and support her at her top tier.
There you go.
Or, do the whole I would like to do this with the option with no benefits, and just just send her $50 or $100 a month to help pay for this.
That's a lot, but I appreciate it.
Listen,
or come
we
find
just
me
got done talking about how we would ask for more money.
That's true. No, come and find me at the conventions that I'm tabling at and buy something. There you go. Come support me. I'll be at all sorts of stuff this year.
Yeah. I wish I could. Not yet.
I know, we miss you. I'll be at Emerald City. I'll be blowing kisses from the airplane.
I might be able to find out if I can go. It's whether or not we can get everything updated. I have to heal first from 4 years of a nightmare.
Yeah.
We're getting there though, but I don't think I'm going to be ready by Emerald City, sadly.
Yeah.
I might have to scratch off 2024.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And just shoot for 25, but that's fine. Especially, what really sucks is I finally have stuff where, so the big reason that I haven't done a ton of cons is because I don't have or didn't have a bunch of stuff that I could sell, because maps always end up very, very personal, and for the campaign that someone's playing in, and there's always been up until before the pandemic, everything I've done, I haven't been able to really sell, or it hasn't been a big enough project where I could sell prints of that anyone would give a shit about.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I do, I can't get to cons.
Oh, that's a whole topic we could get on right now, is that conventions are turning really scary this year.
Yeah.
I've only gotten into half as many as I've applied to. And some of them are my big hitters and or the ones that I've consistently gotten into before. So I'm like, what? It's this very odd whiplash of being as successful as I am in my career right now. I've got, I joke around that I'm the new Abria, that I've done D20 CR and Taz.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not nearly the only one besides Abria who's done that now, but it was pretty funny. But yeah, having the hype of my career, when junior year aired, I think I got 2,000 followers in a week, kind of thing. Yeah, it was crazy. And then having the whiplash to waitlisted. And I'm like, oh no, panicking on the side of okay, yes, I have these wonderful contracts, but the shows that are my livelihood, I'm not getting into. So hopefully the contract people will keep bringing me back.
So originally, I have a really, really good friend who's amazing when it comes to doing cons and shows and everything else. And I originally talked about working a booth with her or something. And then life.
Yeah,
and
life.
then pandemic.
I'd say, I remember in 2020, we were supposed to have a ramen date.
Yes, we were.
We will still have that ramen date one day.
Oh, God. Yes, we will. God
Yes,
damn it.
we will have a ramen date.
Yes, we will. But well, now I'm in Portland, Oregon. So if you end up, going to Rose City Comic-Con,
I applied. We'll see.
Yeah, you will be like 5 minutes away from me, or something. I don't know. I'm not 5 minutes.
We'll figure it out.
But I'm not that far. I'm like 15 minutes or something.
Hell yeah.
But yeah. So far, that's the only one that technically I will be at, but I won't have a booth because we can't control how many people I come in contact with.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. But I was supposed to originally had been thinking about doing a booth with them, and when I there's such a weird flux for artists, lack of a better way of saying it, where if you do booths, generally we have to do them so much so it'll pay for our year.
Yeah, 100%. You rely on about like 4 days out of a year to pay for the next couple of months of income.
And the booths aren't cheap.
No.
They're super expensive. There's so many weird stipulations.
Yes, it's like Calvin Ball. It's like, okay, wait, it wasn't like this last year, but now it's that? Okay, all right, well, let me rearrange this. Wait, my display can only be so high off the table. When did that change? And you're not enforcing that with the person over there. Wait a minute. Right. Okay, let me just, oh, yes, hi, welcome to the booth. Let me help you out. Give me just 2 seconds because I'm going to get kicked out if I don't adjust the height of my table. Sorry, what are you talking about? It's just... It's wild.
It is.
And then another thing that I feel like a lot of attendees don't realize, when you have a booth at a show, you have the table, which most of the time is 6 feet or less, because they'll advertise it as 6 feet, but it's not always. And then you have either 1 or 2 chairs. That is what you are given. So anything that you see at a booth that is like pretty or advertising or shelving units to put product on, anything, storage behind the table, anything you see was brought in and most of the time designed by the artist that you're buying from. Like I literally have like plastic shelving units that I bring con to con so that I can have some place to store things safely.
Right. Designed, set up, carried, schlepped from con to con, like
paid for on planes.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about how expensive it was to get my merch to London. Let's not worry about it.
I can't even imagine. As always, our show is sponsored by Legend Keeper, a fantastic world-building tool, whether you're a writer, a GM, DM, or even a player. You can create a world, you can add all of your notes, you can determine who gets to see them, edit them, create their own. And if you own a project, you are the only person who has to have a subscription, so you can bring your players in for free, or your readers, or your patrons. You can determine who can edit, who can see, who can view secrets. And there are so many really interesting tools on Legend Keeper that allow you to link pages, maps, images, sidebars, timelines, calendars, like you name it. There's so much about Legend Keeper that is so simple and yet incredibly effective. All right, so let's definitely talk about burnout culture.
Oof, yeah.
That's a big topic for us as artists.
Yeah, it really, really is.
Which,
what burnout is.
Right.
Or is that already stated in a different episode?
No, I mean, first of all, it should always be reiterated. I do want to stress a lot. Hustle culture and burnout culture go hand in hand.
Yep.
Every artist fully understands that when you are starting out, you don't get the jobs or the recognition or the pay without the hustle.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is saying that you shouldn't hustle. What we are saying is that you need to take care of yourself while you are, And the moment that you can get to the point where you don't have to hustle as hard, that not only should you not, but you also shouldn't encourage it in other people.
Yes.
Because not only does it imply impossible fucking standards, it is what keeps people paying artists less.
Yep.
So, as a whole, if we acknowledge that hustle culture exists, we have to also at the same time acknowledge that burnout culture is a consequence of it and should be deterred. Everybody should be paid a living wage. And it sucks that we have to absolutely fight tooth and nail to minimally make that.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't
especially working in a luxury industry, which is what art is.
Yes.
Not to say it isn't necessary. Obviously, art is necessary.
Yes.
But we are at a level in, the world, we are a luxury industry.
Exactly. And it's something that if somebody doesn't have to buy, they won't.
Right.
What is burnout culture, or what does burnout look like for you? And what do you do to not?
Well, I mean, burnout as a concept is like, I cannot bring myself to do this thing anymore. It's named after burning a candle to the end of its wick. There is nothing else it can give you. And it happens so much, and it's so sad how quickly it happens. It's a physical thing, it's a mental thing, it's an emotional thing. For me, burnout, I can't bring myself to draw. Even in times when I know I have to.
Yeah.
Like, the worst case scenario is that you have to work through burnout because you have to put food on the table.
Yes.
And that is what we want to change by talking about it, by making sure that other people don't have to go through the same shit we had to. If somebody tells you, like, well, I serve my time, you have to also, don't ever listen to them ever again. They're a bad
are no
person.
dues to pay.
There are no dues. The entire point of art in 2023 and having a platform at all and being able to talk about this stuff is to make it better for the next generation of artists than we had before.
Exactly.
And if we could get to a place where burnout is eliminated, can you imagine the kind of artwork we'd be seeing?
Right?
Oh my god, the whole tortured artist thing is the most unhealthy myth.
Yes.
I always bring it back to the comedian Hannah something. But she does a whole thing in her stand-up about Van Gogh. And how everyone's like, oh, well, if Van Gogh wasn't a tortured artist with mental illnesses, we wouldn't have the sunflowers. And it's like, no, actually, when he painted the sunflowers, he was medicated and doing really well. And the medication that he was on, actually, we found out later, makes you experience the color yellow a little bit more intensely than you're supposed to. So the only reason we have the sunflowers is because Van Gogh was doing okay and was on medication.
Right. It's like
happy artists make better art. Sad artists get burnout. It leads to depression, leads to self-harm. That's it.
100%. And a lot of it has to do, every single artist I have ever known, if there's someone out there who hasn't experienced this, great. Awesome.
Good. You're the dream.
Right. But if you have a career in art, the good chances are that you've had a regular 9-to-5 job on top of trying to do freelance or get hired in an art job.
Yep.
And for anyone who doesn't create on that same level, burnout also comes from feeling as if your art isn't good enough and you are trying desperately to sell or put something out there that is popular or
get that dream job or contract with that specific company.
Right. Which is why, and I just recently also had this on my Discord where someone was like, oh, this artist should, someone should come along and hire this person. And I'm like, that isn't the dream job for a lot of us.
Yeah.
being told, like, from the get-go, when I started actually making maps in the RPG space, despite already being here because I play the game, being told that, oh man, ultimate thing would be hired by Wizards of the Coast. I don't want to be hired by anybody. I know that this is mind-blowing for people, but being a freelance artist allows me not to have burnout.
Yeah.
If I had to get up and produce my art in a specific deadline every day, I wouldn't do this anymore because you just can't.
I empathize, but also that's my job.
Well, yes.
It depends on the person, I suppose,
Right.
and the definition of
Right. If you're
work.
every piece that you did, so this is a really good example of the different types of artwork. If every piece that you did took 4 to 6 weeks, but you had to do it in 3 weeks.
Right. Over and over and over and over.
Right. And that's what I mean. Like, there are a lot of people who do want to go out and work for Wizards of the Coast or whomever on a regular job. And if this is what I mean by what is your version of burnout, because I constantly get crammed into someone else's
schedule
expectations of how long something should take me.
Yeah.
And for every other cartographer out there who can whip together a map, I love you and absolutely nothing against you. But I am a partially blind individual who takes a very long time to draw what I do and cannot possibly fucking produce. Specifically looking at you, Wizards of the Coast, sometimes you give me some really
the deadlines are
wild. Yeah.
Wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone who hasn't done official contract work with them, just from hearsay,
yes,
that's wild. And the work that I have done before, people are like, oh, so how long would it take you to do XYZ? And I'm like, probably like, a week, 2 weeks. And they're like, can you do it in 3 days?
No.
And I'll be like, are you gonna pay me for that? Because I'm gonna have to put my entire life aside to make that happen for you.
That is whole hustle culture.
Yep.
And this is what we're trying to discourage here, people. If you take something and it genuinely takes you 2 weeks to make, and someone says, can you do it in 3? Your answer should be no.
Yeah, it should be.
I know that it's not, because as somebody who's also tried to pay my bills, I fully understand, which is again, but if you have the opportunity, and there are some ways around it. I think that, and this is going to come from my business background here. I think that there's a lot of times where we don't understand that we actually have the ability to negotiate our contracts.
Yeah, there's like a implied power dynamic,
right?
That doesn't actually exist, or in most cases is actually the opposite.
Yes. So a perfect example.
Companies don't want. Doctors hate her. Like they don't want you to know this because they want to pay you as little as they can.
Right. Well, here's the thing. A lot of times we don't inform them enough to know the difference.
Right. And so it's not out of malice. It's out of ignorance. Right.
Exactly. I can't tell you the amount of people that have come to me and been like, oh, well, you have X, Y, and Z, and this is when we have the deadline. That's great. I'm not going to meet that. Yeah.
Period.
I actually
if you'd like to work with me, change the deadline.
Right. And I've even told them, like, okay, I'm not going to be able to meet that deadline. If you can't move it back, I fully understand. We'll get as far as we can. But to be honest with you, if you want that done, this isn't going to work.
Right.
And the amount of, talking with other artists and stuff and be like, oh, well, so I guess you lost that job. No, I didn't.
Oh, that's very, very lucky.
Right.
I'm glad for you.
Well, the thing is that it's how you say it.
Right.
So a lot of times I get approached by people and they're like, I have these ridiculous deadlines. Oh, that's great. But, learning to turn around and say, oh, I would love to. If I possibly could make that happen, I absolutely will. But my average piece takes X, Y, Z amount of time.
And for what you're asking, here's my estimate. Like,
Right. It shouldn't be, oh, if you pay me more, I'll somehow get it done. Because then they think, well, you could have gotten it done in that time anyhow. Which is why
Yeah.
we need to change that language.
Absolutely.
And we
That's
need
a
to
really
go,
good point.
yeah, we need to go, okay, money aside, you know, I can only get it done in this amount of time. I can try and shoot for that deadline. And if you're honest, so I've had quite a few art directors where I'm like, okay, this is what I could possibly get done in the amount of time that you want to give me. Is that suitable? Can I work that part and you possibly find someone else? Or, and the only time that that didn't happen is when I was specifically requested to do a book with them, and they didn't want to work with any other cartographer. And then I was like, okay, well, I was still over close to a month late.
Yeah.
Because I could not produce in the amount of time that they wanted all that art. So I was like, okay, well, you know, I'm doing the best I can, and that's all we can ask for.
Then you get into the levels of feeling guilty.
Right.
About not meeting a deadline that was unreasonable to begin with.
Right. Or they talk about reducing your pay.
Yeah.
And I argue this point a lot when it comes to contracts. You can't reduce my pay. Because if you're paying me by the hour, then this is how much it should cost you.
Right, yeah.
Because most of the time, people are not paying you a living wage.
Nope.
And as artists, especially when your name isn't out there, asking for a living wage is practically impossible, because it does feel like you're never going to get any of the jobs. And, you know, I mean, I literally had someone tell me I should do my maps on Fiverr.
Oh my God. Eat shit, that person. Sorry.
Right. I'm like, are you fucking serious? You know?
Yeah.
Right.
That's insane.
Exactly. So whenever somebody asks me about, you know, like, how much should I charge for my maps? How long does it take you? And give yourself a living wage.
As a starting point. And then as you get, you know, better at what you do, you shouldn't be charging less because it takes you less time. Right. You should be charging more because now you have the expertise to take less time.
Yes.
It's, yeah, I've had meltdowns, like actively in tears with my therapist, being like, I have to charge more. What are they going to do? What are they going to say?
Yeah.
And every time, sure, some people might leave and be like, oh my God, she's unreasonable prices, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But the people that care about you as a person, the people that actually care about watching your career grow, the people that want you to succeed, will save up to make it happen. Yes. People will match what you are worth because they know you're worth that.
Here's the thing.
It's fucking terrifying. Let's be completely honest. It is so scary to raise your prices.
Right.
But you have to eat.
Yes, 100%. Like, I'll put my prices out there. I don't care. I charge $4,000 to make a world map. But it takes close to a month for me to make a world map.
Right. So that's $1,000 a week. And how many days a week do you work?
5 or more.
There you go. So what is that? $200 a day?
Yeah. And it's, you know, there's a lot of people like, oh my God, you know, I wish I could get, I wish I could get $4,000 a month. Yeah, but I'm only getting that job, you know, 3 or 4 jobs a year like that.
Right. Also, we're not getting all of the money.
Right.
We have to pay taxes. And because illustration is a sole proprietorship, we have to pay twice. We have to pay personal income taxes and then business income taxes. So actually, anything that you're giving us, we barely get to keep half.
Right. On top of if we have to pay for our own insurances and everything else,
student loans, home payments. Yeah, being an artist is not easy.
No. And
you shouldn't do it, but you got to be realistic about things.
Yes.
Which is why a lot of people are happy to have a 9-to-5.
Yes.
And then do stuff on the side. I know so many people who are that way.
Oh yeah. You know, and that's why I'm like, again, it's whatever works. So one, you don't experience
then you're doing
burnout.
it right.
Yeah. You know, But to have other people like constantly like, oh, you need to work for this company. Oh, this person should work for this company. No, don't
Right.
tell people how or what they should do. Because again, this just attributes to, hustle culture and makes that artist feel like they're somehow not succeeding.
Right. And it's also like, especially if, oh, you should work for XYZ company, that's not under our control.
No,
and so if
it's
you
not.
over and over are telling an artist, oh, you should be working for blah, 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 it's gonna lead to inferiority issues of like, why
Yes.
haven't they talked to me yet? Which
Right.
is been there, done that.
Mhm.
With lots of different people of, oh my God, I feel like I did something wrong because this company hasn't talked to me in,
Yes.
Either that I've worked with them before and they haven't talked to me again, or I've never worked with XYZ company. What did I do wrong?
Right.
And that's not the industry. And
no.
yeah, it's don't feel inferior if you're not getting the jobs you quote should be getting.
Yes.
It's not up to you.
Let's talk about outside culture.
Sure.
So we have I cannot begin to express how many other people in our industry constantly say things like, I feel like I'm on the outside looking in. I feel like I don't get included.
Oh,
I
my
feel like
God.
I'm not tapped for things.
Yes, all of us are imposters.
Right.
We are all imposters, don't worry.
Well, I do want to define, for sake of being on the same page. Imposter syndrome is feeling as if you aren't good enough and or you don't belong and you're a fake or a fraud and somebody's going to
find out. Yeah.
Right. So that is a little bit different. And the only reason I want to make the distinction is because when we use language that's a little too close, it doesn't quite fit. And there's a lot of people that don't recognize themselves in the conversation.
Sure.
And after having, not too long ago, I had a post on Twitter, I think, where I was talking about how so many of us feel like because we're not invited or we're not asked, or maybe we were at one point and we're not now, or whatever the case is, that we feel like we're on the outside. But this whole community is based on people who have always felt very much on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we perpetuate that, especially as creators. We perpetuate that because you have people turn around and tell me, like, I've quote unquote made it because I've worked with Critical Role. Okay, one job is never going to set you up for life. And even though I do work with them, for several projects over the years, it doesn't pay my bills year round. It's a single map every few months at best.
Right. You have to have other things.
It also, even if I was best friends with everybody on the cast, they don't have time to sit down and have tea.
Right.
With me on a regular basis. We don't get to sit down and talk all the time. I'm not like phoning them up and have a play date with Omar or something. Right.
I love when people are like, oh my God, you've worked with Critical Role. What are they like? And
They're
I'm like,
people.
Well, one, the only time I've ever talked with them is not in a professional manner.
Right.
It's been like meeting at conventions.
Right.
Or Twitter DMs. Mm-hmm. And when I do work with them, I'm working with art directors who are the middleman between me and them.
Right.
It's not direct one-on-one contact. That's not how the industry works.
No, and the only...
I'm not suddenly going to guest star. Like,
right?
What?
Well, here's the thing, though. See, I'm the only exception. Well, not the only exception to that.
Are you going to guest star?
No, God, no.
I'm teasing.
Right. I will never be on that show. Deborah Ann Wall said it the best. Yeah, right? I'm sorry. Well, we said Andy Warhol and then that...
Deborah Andy Warhol?
Yeah. It's Deborah Ann Wall? Right.
I don't remember. Deborah Ann said.
Yes. So she originally didn't want to do... She did a show called Relics and Rarities. And she originally didn't want to do it because tabletop RPGs are so incredibly precious to her and a huge part of her life. And she just felt like putting her show or her stuff out on the internet might ruin that.
Mm.
And I 100% feel that.
Mm-hmm.
I was on a show on the Greyhawk channel called Violent Villainous, and I got a look behind what it's like to be on a show, a live,
Play.
Yes, and I hated it.
Oh.
Nobody talked to each other between sessions, which is just weird to me.
Yeah.
Especially coming from a group that was incredibly close, or still incredibly close. And we didn't really talk anything out as characters. The whole thing felt, so here's the thing. If you're a min-maxer, if you're a rules lawyer, if you're RP specific, that's great. But all of those different types don't fit at the same table.
Yeah.
And a lot of shows just kind of throw people together without knowing playstyle. And I was thrown in a show with a min-maxer, which I am 100% RP.
Mm-hmm.
And it ruined my experience. Well, no, it only ruined it as far as doing a show. Or that particular show, I should say. Because I was like, wow, first of all, I am absolutely horrible at disguising my dislike of something.
Me too.
Yeah.
The pandemic only made it worse because I got very used to wearing a mask.
Right.
And now I have no visual filter. If somebody does something I find distasteful, it will show on my face.
Absolutely, 100%. Same here, which is why I don't have a camera on me.
Hey.
Yeah, because yeah. But and it came across to the audience, and I was like, yeah, no, we're not doing this. And when I did try to have a conversation that like I'm used to, it died. It died with my DM, it died with the other player, and then I apparently said something that made them think about how they play, and they apparently changed play styles and everything else afterwards. But for me, it kind of proved the point that I am not the kind of player who can just be thrown in with a bunch of people. I want to know who you are. Let's do a one shot or two or whatever, and I get to know your play style. And if we mesh, great. If we don't, that was fun. Bye.
Yeah. See you later.
Nothing personal. I'm just not, I don't have a problem with min-maxers. It's just my playstyle is horrible with min-maxers around.
Mm-hmm.
Or rules lawyer because I'm very rules loose. So, fuck. I'm chaos. And I need other chaotic people.
I always like to say finding a good D&D group is like finding a good therapist. You got to try a couple times.
Yeah.
If you find somebody on the first try, holy crap, you're lucky.
Right. And kudos to you.
Yeah, good job.
Right. By all means, everybody, please don't hesitate to say, like, this table isn't working for me.
Yeah, oh my god, do not suffer through for the sake of the game or the story. I've done that too many times.
Right.
Your mental health is worth more than the table. Come on.
Right. And it can ruin your experiences.
Yeah, and make you not want to play.
Right. And, so same thing. I don't want to, and although I love, watching Critical Role and everything else, and I would love to sit down and play a game with them, just not on camera.
On camera. Yep.
Right.
I completely agree.
I am partially blind. There needs to be concessions made for somebody like me.
Mm-hmm.
And the worst part is I'm light sensitive. There's no way.
Yeah,
I'm
there's
gonna
no
be able
way
to be on the set.
They'd let you in with sunglasses, maybe.
Yes, but I'm pretty sure that's
then you look like a poker player.
Right.
Everybody sees what your dice are, like when you roll them in the reflection.
Right. Yeah. So, and it's pretty funny. And would there be? I'll never say never, but for right now, it's still a no.
Yeah.
But
it's very different, and we could talk all day about the way that actual play is so different from actual play, that when you're getting down to it and you're rolling dice with friends, there needs to be so much more communication they don't show that on the shows. There needs to be moments where you stop because someone has to go to the bathroom. There's moments when you stop because oh my God, that was the funniest thing that's ever happened. We have to end the session. We can't continue.
Right.
You know, there's gonna be, you know, all sorts of things that they don't show when there's a
Right.
camera involved, because when it comes down to it, they're making entertainment.
Yeah. So
And it's not the same as playing a game with your friends.
Well, yes and no. I have to point out that Critical Role started off as a group of friends that were playing.
Exactly. And it's evolved over time.
Right. And because they are voice actors and everything else, they could turn it into an actual play that was successful.
Right.
For everybody out there who's like, I want to be the next Critical Role, you can't. That is like saying, I want to be the next Van Gogh. There is only ever going to be one. Instead, be your own.
Right.
And
exactly.
Right. And that's only going to happen when everyone at the table has that kind of chemistry. You know,
there is so much trust.
Yes.
At the table in Critical Role specifically, that if you haven't had the bad experience, you can't see.
Right.
I feel like, yeah, it's when I first started watching, it's like, oh, I want every game to be like this.
Right.
And then the more you watch, it's like, no, this is their table.
Yes.
The only way that this is possible is because it's this group of people that trust each other, trusts each other this explicitly, that has known each other this long.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why, yes, they can have guests, but I can't imagine that they would ever, I don't personally know, please nobody take what I'm saying as like absolute, but I can't imagine them bringing someone else into that group and having the same dynamics as they already have.
Forever. Yeah.
Right.
It would have to be a very specific and lucky situation and a specific kind of person to gel perfectly.
Right. And some of the players that they've already had before they, or actually when they very first started, didn't even quite fit.
Yep.
And, it's not against that person or that they're bad or a bad player or whatever, although circumstances are what they are.
Yeah.
But
bad example, but
right.
In a perfect world.
Yes, exactly. But all of us, the longer you play and the more groups that you get to play in, find the people that you really connect with and then bring them to a new table until eventually you end up at the same table with the same group of people where you all mesh.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've been playing with the same group of 8 people for over 20 years.
That's so wonderful.
I love them. They are my family. They are... The reason I even heard about Critical Role is because one of them messaged me and was like, oh my God, there's a show that plays like we do. And I was like, ha ha, very funny.
Yeah, right. Little did you know.
Right, and it was funny. They more or less meant because we are, again, they're theater kids, I'm theater adjacent. And we have just a really neat table of dynamics that we only found because all of us played at different points in different groups, but all 8 of us, and then we pared it down to us. And technically I'm mostly DM 4 people, but there's 8 when it's all of us. And it took a lot of us all going to different groups and finding out oh, that didn't fucking work. But hey, I really love playing with you. So how about you come with me and we'll go play at Devin's table.
It's like dating.
Yes. Oh, it's 100% like dating, only I think worse.
Yes. Yes.
At least dating might have, you have better chances dating than you do to find a good D&D table.
Oh my God, that's outrageous and true.
Right.
How dare you?
Right.
How dare you say something so outrageous?
Oh my God.
So true.
That needs to be the tagline. At the beginning of this, it's going to be dating is worse, or finding a D&D table is worse than dating. Yep.
Yeah, I love it. I do want to circle back around because you did ask me to describe how I deal with burnout and avoid it.
Yes.
So I do want to go back to that. Awesome. Yeah. So I've dealt with burnout pretty significantly a couple of times in my life. And as frustrating as it is, literally the only way you can deal with it is to just stop. You can't force yourself to work through burnout. If you do, you're making it worse.
Yeah.
You have to give yourself time to rest. You have to give yourself grace. You have to forgive the situation. Not that there's fault anywhere, but you have to make peace. Say, I can't do this right now. I shouldn't do this right now, so I won't.
Right.
Rest is so important.
And you didn't fail.
Right, you didn't fail. You didn't fail. You're making it so that in the future you don't do this again. Yeah. Or it takes longer before you do this again.
Right.
That you find some balance more. I still burn out. I'm going to be completely honest. I still burn out. And unfortunately, it's kind of part of the job right now. Yeah. But that's what we said before. If every time we talk about this, the next artist burns out a little less.
Yes, absolutely.
That's great. But yeah, there are literally times where like I'll try to pick up a pencil and nothing is right and I feel like garbage and everything, like it seems like I can't do anything and I'm like, why am I even doing this? What is the point of making art right now?
There isn't. At that point in time, no, seriously. And it's learning to accept, you know what? It's kind of like anything else in life. There are times where you just wake up and it's not there. It's, you know, singers actually do it a lot. I think it's Mariah Carey turned around and said that she'll get up every morning, see if she can hit that high note. If she can, great. She knows she can go on stage that day. If not, she's like, well, I got to cancel.
Yeah.
You know, some days it's just not there. And that's okay. It doesn't mean like your skill doesn't evaporate overnight. What does evaporate is your desire to create something. And if your heart isn't in it, you're not going to make anything that you like.
Right. And then you're just going to perpetuate the feeling of doing everything wrong.
Right. And then that builds on you not being able to, like, you start becoming your worst critic, even worse at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And so we need to learn, like, immediately. I do it all the time. I will wake up, I'll go to start a project. I could be in the best mood. I'll go to start a project and I cannot fucking draw anything.
It's like your hand falls off or like it's someone else's hand.
Right.
And it's like, where did it go?
Yeah. And I will get like a half hour to 45 minutes in. And if I can't make it happen, I don't even bother trying to open another project.
Yeah.
I go play video games.
Go outside.
I go on a hike.
Be with your loved ones for a minute. Like there's so many. Yeah. Just go be a person. Right. And it will come back.
Right. It is your brain. It's your brain saying, hey, you're abusing your skill.
Mm-hmm.
I can't do this 24/7. Just like you can't eat the same fucking thing every meal. And art feeds your brain and it feeds your soul. And if you're feeding it the same fucking thing every day, it's going to eventually like, no.
Yeah, I don't want that anymore.
Right. So give it something else, something not related to what you're currently doing. You know, I love to tell everyone I go on a date with myself.
Oh, that's a really good way to put it.
Yeah, I will. If I can't go out in the woods and everything else, which I will make a picnic for and everything else, bring candles, blah, blah. I'll do that in my own space. Mm-hmm. So first off, I one of these days, I'll actually turn the lights on and take pictures of everything. My office is a magical place to be. I try to surround myself with as much fun and creative things as I can because I am alone. I am working in my space by myself. You know, my wife is great, but she genuinely knows that she needs to like leave me be.
Mm-hmm.
And so I fidget or I get distracted or whatever. And I actually keep toys and stuff on my desk.
Oh my gosh. I feel like you and I have very similar setups.
Oh, well, mine are creepy toys.
Yeah, mine are like weird shit. A lot of like miniatures.
Yep.
I have a collection of key fish that people give me at conventions.
Nice.
And I put them on top of my picture frames, so I have like a bajillion of them. Oh man, this could be like a whole episode just talking about workspace.
Oh, right. Oh my God. We would have to put pictures. Absolutely.
I would love to do that. Because actually the lighting right now is like, because I'm East Coast, it's like 6 o'clock, so the sun's coming through, and I have little sun catchers in my window, so there's like rainbows all over the place.
Right. I have fake stained glass over my window because I'm light sensitive, so I hate direct sunlight. But yeah. My entire office is creepy as fuck, and I have like blood red walls.
Yes.
And I always make the joke that if anyone ever came in to rob us, the moment that they get to our office, they'll just drop everything and they're
like,
gone.
Never mind, actually.
Yeah, you know what? I think if I took anything out of here, it'd be cursed. So I'm just
wrong house.
Yeah. I'm sorry, whoever I pissed off. I'm sorry. You know?
Don't hex me.
Right, please. Yeah. But I do that because it does help me not have burnout. When I get distracted, I will play. I genuinely play with toys. I enact character, have little scenes that they act out with my miniatures. Just because I can. I have these wonderful little they're to help you draw body poses, which is funny because I don't draw characters.
Oh, the little wooden guys?
No, actually I got the Bandai one.
Oh, the anime ones.
Yes.
You got the super articulated joints.
Yes.
That's awesome. I know the ones you're talking about.
Oh, I love them. I love them so much. I actually bought them thinking that one day I'll actually get back into drawing characters. That just never fucking happened.
That's okay.
Yeah. So
if I wasn't like afraid of like articulated dolls, I would have them. But I am. They creep me out.
Oh, do they really? Oh, then you can't come in my office.
I can. I just don't look at those. Like when I go to conventions and people have there's a huge like culture of ball jointed dolls. I appreciate the aesthetic. I appreciate when people make the little clothes that are so detailed. Right. I love that they can have all these personalities. I love how creative they can be. Do not bring them near me.
Is it any dolls or just
no? It's all jointed dolls specifically, like anything with articulation. I'm like, ugh.
Okay, good. Then my other dolls will be fine.
Yeah. No, I have like crazy figures all over my room. I even have like
dolls.
the little heck yeah, haunted dolls. I have the little Nendroids. They are technically articulated, but they don't look like a person.
Right.
Ball jointed dolls look like a person, and they skeeve me out. I don't know what it is.
Okay. It's the first time I've ever heard that, but I love how unique you are.
Thank you. Which is funny because I am a character artist, so like you would think.
Right. That's why I was like, oh, you'll know what these are,
I do. I know what they are, and they're a great resource, but I can't have them.
Right. Oh, man.
Swoopy.
Wow. Is there anything, I'm trying to think now if there's anything that I have in my occupation that I don't like specifically.
Like tools and things?
Right. I mean, well, yes and no. I
think for me, it's an uncanny valley thing.
Oh,
because
okay, yeah.
Specifically with people.
Right.
I'm like, okay, yeah, the joints move kind of like a person should.
Right.
But that's not what a person does. Like the uncanny valley gets so wrong for me with articulated dolls that look to human proportion.
Right.
That I just can't do it. I'm like, that's wrong. That's not a person. It looks like one. Nope. That the part of my brain that is like, that's a fae. That's a trap.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Like, I can't.
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm not only do I play characters that do that, but I am the kind of person that absolutely runs headfirst into that. But
yeah,
I am that creepy shit, that creepy bitch that everyone's like, oh god, she's gonna be the one that summons Cthulhu. Ultimately, what I hope to accomplish is to get people who are not artists to kind of like a little bit of insight of what it's like in the chaos that is an artistic mind.
Absolutely. We're all over the place. I've known people who are so structured
Yes.
and like they could be an accountant in their day life and then they make the most beautiful paintings. Like,
right.
and then there's me who is like art goblin, but the work that I make is so meticulous. You know, it's the juxtaposition and chaos of it is half the fun of the job.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, and wanting to invite non-artist or artistic people into as much of into our worlds as we can safely bring them.
Of course, yeah.
You know, again, Fae contracts are crazy. But they're wild. And the other thing is to hopefully inspire other artists and everyone else who wants to get into the industry, or even specifically people who create worlds and wants to world build or be DMs or writers or things along those lines, to understand what it's like to, from people who have already kind of made it in the industry, what it is like with burnout, what it is like with hustle culture, what it is like to navigate a neurotypical world.
Yeah.
When you're not. You know, we're going to get a little bit serious here.
Mm-hmm.
Because both you and I are both neurodivergent.
Mm-hmm.
I do not have ADHD, which is sort of surprising for a lot of people, because to a lot of other people, I seem like very all over the place. But I do not, in any way, shape, or form, one, I don't self-diagnose. I don't assume that I have something. And two, ADHD is actually a very serious topic, as much as a lot of people joke about it. And it does create a lot of, you have to change the way you interact with the world, and how the world interacts with you when you have ADHD.
Mm-hmm.
I have complicated PTSD, and I have anxiety, and I also have physical ailments and conditions that make it so I basically can't handle direct sunlight, and this causes a whole bunch of other problems. And I think it's important that we talk about, when interacting with people, I love their enthusiasm over our art.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how much they really want to help. But at the same time, they are doing things and saying things that they don't realize are hurtful and painful to us. To constantly hear people tell me what art I should be making feels like they're telling me the art I am making isn't good enough.
Or isn't right. Yeah.
Exactly. When someone turns around and tells me I should be working for whatever company, it feels to me like you're telling me what I'm doing isn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think a lot of people understand. I realize that they're trying to come from a place of like, oh my God, I love your stuff so much, you should be doing this. I don't think
right.
they understand.
You should be recognized to that level.
Right. I don't think they realize how it sounds to somebody who, one, putting your stuff out there, especially when you very first start creating,
terrifying.
Is, oh God, yes, it is. There's no, you might as well walk naked through the streets of whatever town you live in, or
mm-hmm.
nearby city streets, because that's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And the internet is cruel. People are assholes. Teachers don't understand, or other students make fun of you, or whatever the case is. To continue to create and still put it out there despite everything is huge.
Yeah.
So we constantly doubt ourselves and constantly question if we are good enough. And being neurodivergent means that when we do put things out there, when we are trying to be social and talk to people, wires get crossed.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard. And I had someone come up to me one time and turn around and tell me that at one point they thought I was an absolute bitch. And I was like, what? Why?
Yeah.
You know? And they're
Because
like,
you
well,
read or present that way.
right. Well, because they apparently tried to talk to me at some point, and I guess they said something that I couldn't respond well to. And I'm very abrupt, which is hard for people to understand.
Mm-hmm.
So part of my reaction, I guess, lack of any better way of putting it, is I'm very succinct when I want to say something or I want to convey a specific emotion. I unfortunately was gaslit my entire childhood, which makes me now, I don't want to mince words. I want you to know exactly how I feel or how something made me feel.
Right.
Unfortunately, when I do that, I sometimes forget that other people will take this as me correcting them or being upset, because I don't add the normal emotional indicators. And it's perceived as me being angry or being hostile.
Yeah, I get that all the time of why are you so angry? And I'm like, no, I'm being direct.
Right. I'm not angry at all. What are you talking about? I just want to make sure you know exactly how I feel.
Or why are you so angry? I'm being passionate.
Right. That too.
I'm sorry. Can I have your particular metric of where the line crosses so that I can adjust?
Right. You know, and I've been doing these interviews and I've gotten a lot of, oh wow, I was intimidated by you. I'm like, why?
You're very scary, Devin.
I'm terrifying. I mean, I am as a goth, and I'm fairly certain
you were talking about, like, you know, your devil house. So
yes, having haunted dolls and blood red walls and everything. Oh, I'm rhyming. But you know, I'm definitely not.
Well, I've also talked to you personally.
Yes.
Out of any of this context. So yeah, it's there's a grace that, please give us, artists. We're tired.
Yeah.
We're trying. We put so much of our communication into our artwork that we don't talk good.
Right. Oh, 100%. There's a lot of times where, oh man, it's especially, you know, there are people that are very technical in their art, and they're not always looking to invoke any type of emotion or get anything out of it. Like, they're just like, here's
my brain for a minute.
Right. Here's a cardboard box, you know, type of thing. Right. Whereas others like you and I are definitely trying to convey our thoughts and emotions over things.
Right. It's like a desperate attempt for connection.
Right. Art is our form of communication and our main source of communication, which means that every other kind of communication sort of falls by the wayside. So, especially when it is about our art, because for us, we think our art is expressive enough.
Like, you didn't get it?
Right. Yeah. Like, so when someone else comments on it in a way that we don't necessarily think it warrants or it should have or whatever, we think, oh, it's not good enough. It didn't convey what we thought it would, so you didn't get it. That means you don't understand. That means it sucks.
Right. I did it wrong.
You don't like it. Yeah. So
and if you don't like it, you don't like me.
Right.
Yeah.
Because our art is us.
Yeah.
I am a map that's you know, the truth is out. I'm just a talking scroll.
Been a map the whole time.
Dun, dun, dun. You know what? I need to make a soundboard for that.
Or just like, I'm the map from Dora.
Right. Repeat. Oh, there you go. Yeah. Didn't even think of that. Shit. But yeah.
Sorry, my 90s is showing. I'll excuse myself.
My lack of not watching TV during the 90s is showing. Shit. And you know, I've had every map reference ever made towards me. You'd think I'd have remembered that one. God damn it. But yeah, so it is. We are, no matter what, depending on the type of art you do, your art generally is a reflection of the artists themselves.
Yeah.
So it takes a lot to be okay and not feel as if, you know, In other words, everybody has a bad day, whether they're an artist or not. Don't assume a single interaction is that person's entire personality. What tools do you use to create your art?
Ooh, I like that one.
Thank you.
When I first started out, I was a watercolorist. I loved watercolor. It was also like when I was a kid, I didn't actually do like art classes until my senior year of high school.
Right.
I just did everything myself. And like I was predominantly self-taught.
Right.
And when I, wanted to make things with color, I used what was available to me. So I color pencils, I used markers, I used watercolor trays that you buy at Michael's for $6.99,
Right.
I would use what I had. And as I learned that I liked doing this and I wanted to know more, I discovered like, oh my God, if I use watercolor on this thing called cold press paper,
Oh, yeah.
it's incredible. And then you have
Right.
to learn the difference between paper weights and hot press or cold press and what you're using with what,
Yeah.
And like the more you are passionate about something, the more you'll learn. And the better you'll get. And then when I went to college, I knew that like, I want to be an illustrator. I want to work in this industry. A lot of standard work is done digitally. So I got myself the cheapest bamboo little tablet that I could,
Yep.
and I taught myself. I was very lucky. Well, not very lucky. I mean, my fucking my tuition paid for it. But when I was at school, they gave us Adobe Suite that we were able to use. We were supposed to have a lifetime license, but that went away quick.
Of course.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Talk about Adobe. I barely use Adobe anymore. But I
wish I could say that.
I know. I learned how to paint digitally with Photoshop.
Okay.
Predominantly, I used watercolor brushes because it was what I knew. And actually, if you look at my art now and like my use of lighting and like color scheming and bleed and texture, I still make my digital work look like watercolor, which when people ask me like, oh, I couldn't tell if is that traditional, I'm like, ha ha ha, tricked you. Yeah, mission accomplished. I made my digital look like watercolor. I taught myself using Photoshop. I also took like a couple of courses, but it was still pretty new when I was in school. Or at least the folks that were experts were that way because they had changed Adobe like interface. They'd make all their own brushes. They they adapted the program to suit their needs. Adapting your art to suit the program was very new.
Yes.
And so I learned. I had a professor in school that he was like, you are allowed to use digital to turn in homework, but if we are drawing in the class, it will be with traditional, because he wanted us to have that foundation of here's how traditional materials work that we can then translate into digital rather than using digital as a crutch, which is hard to say because digital is hard to use. So the idea of like quote unquote having a crutch, I think is kind of an over exaggeration, but there are things digital can do that traditional can't. So he wanted us to, oh, you spilled ink, that's there now, make it work. He wanted us to have that kind of versatility and grounding, and I really appreciate that now as a professional, because I can make my work look like it's not pushing a couple of buttons and ta-da, art falls out.
Oh man, wouldn't that be great?
Well, then we're getting back into the AI discussion.
No, it's not good. Okay, so
what I need is the brain plug. Here's the image in my brain, and then download it into my program. But now, because of Adobe being Adobe, there's an entire discussion of that. TLDR, they charge way too much. They are making claims to ownership of work produced in that program. They are really crappy about like user interface in response to what the community wants instead of what they think we want. Adobe is not a great program to subscribe to. Unfortunately, it is the industry standard right now, but that is changing.
Yes.
As such, I now work almost 100% in Clip Studio Paint,
Nice.
which I adore because Photoshop was made for photographers and
Yes.
adopted by illustrators.
Yes.
Clip Studio was made for and by illustrators and is used by illustrators. It is a painting program. It is there for you to make art and make comics. Like, it used to be called Manga Studio or
Yes.
Manga Studio. So now it's Clip because they want it to be, open to lots of other artists. But I think it is 3,000% a better program than Photoshop.
Right.
And then also the Clip Studio version for iPad is the entire program.
Right. Yeah.
It's not the weird pared down bullshit Photoshop that they try to like hand you. Like, here you go, that's good enough, right?
Right.
Clip Studio is the exact same on desktop and on mobile. And I love it. And it has its own cloud storage. I can upload something that I sketched on my iPad and then download it on my computer, and it's glorious.
Nice.
Yeah. Most of my work is digital. But I make my own brushes. I make my own background textures. I have like a folder of watercolor textures that I made probably 10 years ago that I've just been hanging on to. And if I'm like, oh, this piece doesn't look, how I want it to look, I'll slap a watercolor texture on it and then paint into that, and I like it so much better. I make custom brushes. I download brushes all the time, like from ArtStation, and then I'll tweak them to my particular needs. I am always like changing and updating how I work digitally. So, changing with the times kind of thing.
Right.
Learning a new program can be terrifying, and really difficult, especially when your like muscle memory is set to all of the keyboard shortcuts from one program and you have to adjust for another.
Right.
But it's worth it to be versatile and have different options.